In this video, I'll show you how I made the foundation, siding, and railing for the cottage with mostly upcycled cardboard. The cottage was built in an earlier video. I will add a link to that video at the end of this one. So I will be starting with the siding. I painted cardstock or cereal box with Mod Podge first. I'm painting the cardstock with white and a couple of different pinks. I'm trying not to blend the paint too much. I want it to look streaked and messy. On the back, I drew out my lines to cut the siding. You can cut with a utility knife or paper trimmer if that works best for you. I taped down the wires for my lights and routed them towards the top of the cottage. I base coated the entire cottage with brown paint. I did that just in case the background shows through between any of the slats. I figured the darker color would look much better than the masking tape if any of it poked through the cracks. This is optional. I used a makeup sponge and painted the edges of each slat. You don't have to be neat about it either. I feel it adds depth. I used Elmer's glue all in small sections to apply the slats to the cottage. Any PVA glue should work. I started at the bottom and worked my way up. In the beginning, I cut some of my slats so that I could stagger them where they meet instead of leaving them the same length, but that's my personal preference. I would do a few rows and then trim off the ends up close to the cottage. I don't think I mentioned this, but I didn't worry about overlapping the siding. I just wanted to try something different. So the slats are just laying next to each other. I wanted some of the slats to be vertical to add interest, so I did that above the door area. Maybe next time I'll try gluing them down in a sunburst pattern. The window casing I made previously when I created the windows, so now I just need to glue them on. The two side windows I was able to weight down from the inside, but the front window I couldn't weight it down that way. Now it's time to start constructing the foundation. I had several pieces of cardboard saved for this. This bottom piece is going to be 2 layers thick, and I made sure the corrugation was vertical on one and horizontal on the other for strength. They are not all the same size, so I had to piece them together. I cut some 1/2 inch wide strips of double thickness cardboard. These are going to be the side of the foundation. Using hot glue, I glued them all the way around the bottom. I'll reinforce it later with my Elmer's glue all. If you don't have enough cardboard, foam board will work too. I started making my foundation this way because I was tired of the warping. The idea came to me one time when I bought something that was packaged with this weird thick honeycomb cardboard looking stuff. I noticed though that it was really strong, so I started saving any that I came across. Then it occurred to me that I could use layers of cardboard to replicate that strength. Once I have the whole base trimmed with the cardboard strips, I divide up the inside first down the middle. Then I divide up the middle in the opposite direction. And then I divide up each one of those quarters and so on and so on. Since I used hot glue, I am now applying Elmer's glue all where the sides and the bottom meet. I do that just in case the hot glue decides to come apart. Then I apply glue to the top of all the strips and glue the next piece on. This piece is not double thickness, and it's the same size as the bottom piece. I weight it down, and then I start taping all the edges all the way around. Now the foundation for the decking. I have marked out where it will be, and then I outline it with cardboard strips, the same as I did before. I applied Elmer's glue the same as before on the inside as well. Then I glue the decking onto the strips. I only use one thickness of cardboard for this. This is what the cottage will be sitting on. Because the cardboard is too soft on its own, I believe, I'm strengthening it with strips of food packaging. I apply these food packaging strips to the decking and the foundation all the way around. Then I cover any exposed cardboard with masking tape. I cut some food packaging to fit over the masking tape I just applied. Once it's glued down, I completely cover the top of the decking. I do this also to cut down on warping. It really seems to help. One of my houses in the intro video was one of the first that I created a foundation like this, and it doesn't seem to have warped very much or really at all. Here I'm showing you how strong the foundation is. I can't bend it or dent it. Now it's time to glue the cottage down. I weighted it down with a bunch of canned goods on the inside while the glue dries. Now I'm taking a measurement to create decking with scrap foam board. This piece is pretty close to what I need. Here are my decking sides and front pieces. The foam board I bought at Hobby Lobby. It has a really thick, shiny paper covering. So I laid out my pieces and gave them a good spritz of water and let it sit a minute or so. Then I dug my fingernail under the paper in one corner and was able to pull off strips in one piece, surprisingly. Having my decking pieces in place, I used my ball stylus to trace out where I want the stones to be. I don't know what to call this stick. It's not a skewer, it's more like an orange stick, like for your nails. It works great for engraving the stones a little bit deeper. Here's a close-up of the stones. After I had the stones shaped the way I like them, I base coated them with Mod Podge. Glue would probably also work. Then I base coated them with a color I wanted the grout to be. Do you ever have one of those days that you struggle with something that's so simple while creating? That's what was happening to me with this decking. I'm embarrassed to say how many times I painted the side piece till I was happy with it before I continued on. I had to keep reminding myself that it's not really going to be seen very much, and I plan to dirty up the cottage as I add the roof and the plants. I love this type of cardboard. I call it the small corrugation cardboard. We get it when we go to the Sam's Club or Costco. It holds 2 boxes of cereal. This type works great for strength when layered for posts and pergolas and things like that. I'm going to be creating a modified looking pergola. Just like the cardboard is too soft on its own, so I need to cover this with food packaging. I glued down one side to some food packaging, and when it's dry, I cut it out. And then I flip it over and I glue the other side and cut it out. And then I cover the edges of the beam with some more food packaging. And it'll look something like this when it's finished. I cut out some smaller strips, and these will be smaller beams that will go in the opposite direction. And I believe I did 3 or 4 layers for each one, and then I reinforced them with the food packaging just like I did the large beam. I had 2 long strips, and one of the strips I used, or at least 1.5 I used to make my little short beams. And then I cut some little small pieces to make it look like the wood was going through that large beam. And then I just put some paper clay on the ends and let it dry, and then sanded it smooth. And now I'm creating the post for the railing. I glued 4 layers of the small corrugated cardboard that was the height of my post. That way I could just cut the post from it. And I made sure to make several passes with my utility cutter so that I didn't crush it, pushing too hard and trying to cut it too quickly. I didn't show it, but I reinforced with food packaging like everything else for strength. And here's the pergola complete, and I added the strip onto the back to make gluing easier to one flat surface. Again, everything is base coated with Mod Podge or glue, and then I painted it to match the wood that's already on the cottage. These are the completed railings for the cottage. They consist of 3 layers of the main piece, and each overlay is 3 layers. I glued one overlay to the top and one to the bottom of the railing, and I repeat that process for the back side of the railing as well. To create the handrail, I made a piece very similar to the overlay, and I glued it on the top to create that handrail. Still, there's no door. I just haven't been inspired to create it yet, but I need to pretty soon. I added a couple of flower boxes and a shelf under the front window. Once I get the roof on, I can begin to add all of the plants and accessories. Now go and have fun playing with some cardboard today. I'd love to hear what you're working on. See you next time.